Salve, salve, gurizada! Tudo bem com vocês? Trenta aqui, sejam bem-vindos ao canal mais uma vez e hoje vamos para o resumo do que saiu na livestream de Diablo 4 sobre o Open Beta e saiu várias informações, eu vou postar aqui também a entrevista inteira, vocês já devem ver o tamanho do vídeo, está bem grande. Então eu vou passar um pouquinho pelo resumo logo no começo, para quem quiser só saber do resumo, já ter todas as informações prontas já. E aí, se quiser ver a entrevista inteira, eu gravei junto durante a live stream. E aí vai estar na sequência aí, tá? Então vou passar aqui um pouquinho com vocês, bem rapidinho. O Open Beta e o Early Access nos finais de semana, né? Vai começar naqueles dias que a gente comentou. Vamos ver se vai chegar aqui, ó, no dia 17 de março até o dia 19. E saiu as datas, ó. Aqui sai até o dia 20, 12 p.m. PST. Quando começa aqui março, dia 17 de março, às 9 da manhã, PST. Isso no horário de Brasília, dá 14 horas da tarde, tá? Então, às 2 horas da tarde, vai começar o Open Beta no dia 17 de março. Isso aqui é a data bem importante, né? Aqui também praticamente o mesmo horário depois do Early Access, tem Open Beta geral mesmo. No dia 24, onde todo mundo, mesmo quem não adquiriu o jogo, vai conseguir jogar. E vai ficar no dia 24 de março, também às 14 horas vai começar. Que é na outra sexta-feira, né? Então, o que eles nos passaram um pouquinho de informações aqui no começo? Que durante o Early Access, na semana do dia 17 ao 19, no final de semana do dia 17 ao 19, vão ser jogados o Bárbaro, o Rogue e o Sorcerer. São essas três classes que vão conseguir ser jogadas. No Open Beta para todos, vão ser jogados todos esses três anteriores, mais o Druida e o Necromancer. Então, todas as 5 classes vão poder ser jogadas no dia 24 de março. E aqui também tem o máximo de 10 jogadores por Battle.net account, então dá para criar personagem à vontade. Tem até mais, dá para criar 2 personagens por classe, praticamente. E você conseguiu o level 25 no nível máximo, tá? Por cada personagem. E o progresso, até que eu estava dando uma olhada aqui, ele vai ser feito até o... Deixa eu ver se eu acho aqui, ó. O prologue e até o ato 1 inteiro. Que é na primeira zona, que é o Fracture Peaks, né? Essa aqui vai ser a primeira zona que vai ser explorada nesse Open Beta, né? E aqui também está dizendo que todo progresso feito no Early Access vai ser levado pro Open Beta. Então, tipo, de uma semana para outra, tu não vai perder o progresso, vai continuar. Quem já adquiriu o jogo vai continuar com o progresso do Early Access. E aqui o co-op, couch co-op, na verdade, que as pessoas podem jogar juntos, né, no sofá, no PlayStation e Xbox, tá? Vou pular um pouco dessa parte. World Boss vai ter um World Boss durante o final de semana inteiro. E vai ser aqui, ó, Gargantuan World Boss. Então vai ser, acho que o nome dele é até Achara, se eu não me engano. Era praticamente esse o nome que eles falaram durante a live. Aqui até que não aparece, né? Mas é isso aí. E eles vão até atualizar um pouco essa sessão, mais informações do futuro. E esse aqui é um dos achievements do Open Beta, tá? Isso é bem interessante de falar, que vão ter achievements durante o Open Beta. Então, são esses 3 achievements aqui, praticamente. Mas só tu chegando no nível 20 com um personagem, tu já consegue 2 desses achievements, né? O título, que é o Early Voyager, e o Beta Wolf Pack Cosmetic, que é esse aqui, ó. Esse lobinho que fica nas costas. E aí tu dá o rolê, qualquer personagem vai poder ter esse lobinho nas costas, não é só o Bárbaro que nem tá aqui na imagem. E, e aqui, ó, Kyovashad vai ser depois que tu atingir essa cidade dentro da zona, tu consegue também esse título aqui, Initial Casualty. Casualty, na verdade. Aqui são um pouco também que a galera tinha perguntado também dos requerimentos mínimos para o PC e dos recomendados, tá? Estão aqui, então vou pular um pouco essa parte. O Early Access Beta Code praticamente não é para quem justamente recebeu por e-mail, mas quem já adquiriu o jogo já tem acesso automático ao Early Access. E no dia 24 também de março, eles estão avisando aqui que eles vão fazer uma Community Play Livestream, que vai ser a livestream dos desenvolvedores jogando o jogo no dia 24 de março. E eu acredito que não vai ter tanta gente, porque um monte de gente vai estar jogando, né? Open Beta é bem no dia do Open Beta, né? E aqui tá o Prime Statue, blá blá blá. E é isso aí. Praticamente é um resumo um pouco do que foi a live. Mas tiveram outras imagens, eles falaram bem a fundo também das armaduras, tanto dos monstros quanto dos players. Então dá uma olhadinha aí, confere, já deixa aquele like, comenta aí o que vocês acharam dessa atualização do jogo. Já sabe, se inscreve no canal, deixa o like, é isso, acompanha. Tamo junto aí para mais vídeos, né? Muito obrigado aí a todos, valeu.
In BlizzCon 2019 and so forth. One of our 3 world bosses. Yeah, so players will be able to jump in. There's going to be 4 different times, like I mentioned, because, again, we want to make sure that players from all around the world can actually jump in during beta, during these moments. And it gives an opportunity for people to kind of experience like a whole new thing within Diablo 4. Yeah, Ashava's so cool. One of the really cool things about the world bosses is you can just show up there. There'll be other people for you to work together to defeat the boss. And these are huge bosses. The camera actually pulls out so you can get a better view of the
Então
battlefield.
são bosses grandes, que daí a câmera vai se afastar para poder lutar com outras pessoas. Vai ter 4 diferentes spawns, 4 diferentes lugares que eles vão spawnar durante o final de semana.
Or organize anything in particular. You can just show up, fight a giant boss. It's super cool. Yeah, and so world bosses up to 12 players can actually
até 12 jogadores.
A world boss within Diablo 4, and I know it's recommended usually to be 20. The 25 is the max level within beta itself. Yes.
25 é o maior level.
There you go. You're going to want to be close to that level because if you're fighting a higher level boss or higher level monster, you're going to be less effective. And we're actually going to talk about that in a little bit when we talk about armor. Perfect. That's a perfect opportunity for us to talk a little bit more about armor and so forth there. But yeah, the 4 different times and all the details and so forth and times that we just mentioned will actually be available on the beta blog that we do actually have up on Diablo4.com. So if people read that blog when we made the announcement about beta earlier this month, that blog will actually be updated after this stream with all those details. So make sure to check
vai ter
out
todos os
and
detalhes
that blog
depois dessa stream.
Details and times and so forth that we kind of
E aí
mentioned
eu
here.
vou passar aí para vocês também no
If you're
vídeo.
trying to get early access, you can pre-order the game like right up until or even during the early access period, and you'll get access to it. Awesome. We expect to have a turnaround time of minutes to the most. It should be
Vou traduzindo para vocês as coisas mais importantes, tá, gurizada?
Cool.
Não vou traduzir
And
tudo,
then,
não.
A really popular question that we've gotten from the community is min specs and recommended specs. And I do want to note, if you're playing on console, on PlayStation 4, PlayStation 5, or
São os
Xbox One,
requerimentos
Xbox
mínimos
Series
para o
consoles,
computador e os requerimentos
that is also
requerimentos
available
recomendados.
for beta, so players will be able to actually jump in during
No
beta on those
PlayStation
consoles,
e no
but
Xbox
for
também
PC,
vai ter.
we actually do have those min specs and those
Eles
recommended
têm, ó.
specs
Aí sim,
that we can
tomara que...
showcase
Cara,
here,
o PC tem que
really
rodar,
quickly
velho.
for everyone.
Peraí que eu vou tirar a câmera aqui
I
rapidão.
think a huge shout out to our engineers here because in Blizzard fashion they've done a
Isso aí
fantastic
são
job at
os mínimos
optimizing
e os
Diablo 4 to ensure
recomendados.
that
Pô,
as many
beleza.
players as
Tô
possible can
conseguindo
actually
encaixar nos
enjoy this on
recomendados.
PC, which is
45 GB de espaço.
we're continuing to optimize right now, as you said. Like every Blizzard game, we want to make sure as many people as possible can play it. Yeah, and I know we've gotten another big question regarding like PC specs and so forth, and one of them is revolved around like ray tracing and everything like that. That's right. Ray tracing will be coming after launch. Yeah, so we'll have ray
depois do
tracing
lançamento
available
no
after launch
o
for
ray
Diablo
tracing do
4
NVIDIA.
specifically on that side. We'll have these min specs and these recommended specs also available on the beta blog after the broadcast here, but a lot of people will be able to jump in with their PCs or on consoles and actually play Diablo 4 during the beta.
preload is another big popular question that we've gotten. There will be a preload available for the beta for Diablo 4, and that will actually be coming about a week or so before the actual beta. And details on that will also be posted soon on the blog, so make
Uma
sure
semana
to
antes
stay
dá pra
tuned
fazer
to
o preload.
Diablo social channels,
Vai poder
and at the
baixar
same
já.
time, just checking out the blog. We'll make sure to let people know
Checando
when
no blog, a gente
preload
vai
will be
passar
available,
todas as
so you can be
informações.
prepared and you can jump in right during the first minute of early access and so forth. And then another note about consoles is that you will be able to play co-op, couch co-op on consoles,
Yes,
which is
Ah,
really
poder
cool.
jogar
So if you're playing on PlayStation or
no
on
PlayStation,
Xbox, you can have
no
another
Xbox,
person
pra
join you
poder
and
jogar
play
junto
and do couch co-op,
co-op,
which is
né?
really cool
O
for
couch co-op,
Diablo
que é o
4
sofá.
and for that Diablo experience itself. And one thing to note is that you just need access to the beta, and the second person will just both people need access to a Battle.net account of some sort to be able to experience.
Todos têm que ter
Each
acesso ao
person will need
Battle.net,
a Battle.net
de alguma
account.
forma.
That's right.
Exactly. You can create up to 10 characters per BNet account up for the beta, so you can actually experiment and try, like, if you want to
Criar
go
até
through the beginning again
10
or something with like
personagens.
a whole new character or whatnot, you most definitely can.
It's a lot of. I don't know how anyone could really have to.
Maybe you're
You
indecisive.
could create 10 different characters, but there's so much content in the beta. It's really sizable. Look at the
Yeah, and I know a lot of people ask about progress between early access and open beta, and like how that actually does carry over and so forth, or if it does carry over specifically from that end.
Yeah, so your progress will carry over from early access to open beta. So that'll give you more time to really get to level 25.
Então,
Time to fight
quem, a,
Shava if you didn't get access. If you didn't
quem
quite
conseguir
make it,
acesso no Early Access, que eu vou
and more
mostrar para
time to fight,
vocês,
go back and fight Shava.
tudo
You
que eu
can check out all of
evoluir, eu
our
vou
side quests,
conseguir
all of the rest
carregar
of the
para o outro
content
Open
and
Beta,
fracture peaks.
que é
So
na outra semana,
like I
na semana
said,
seguinte.
it's one of our 5 zones, and it's just a huge area to explore with so much content in it that there's
É
plenty
uma
of stuff to do.
das 5 zonas que vai ficar
But of course,
disponível, né?
your progress is not going to carry over to the shipping game because we want everyone to start fresh.
Exactly. So yeah, progress carries over from early access to open beta, and then of course beta progress won't carry over to the final game itself. But one thing we did want to announce, at least today, is that we actually do have some beta incentives and rewards for players that actually do partake in the actual beta test. There's 3 different rewards that people can actually earn. 2 of them are specific titles that will carry over to the final game. And all these rewards actually do carry over to the final game. That's why it's so important for us to ensure that you guys have Battle.net accounts when you're actually playing through the game and so forth. But the first title is, the title itself is called Initial Casualty, which is earned when you reach Kiovashad within the game. And I'm sure people are like, what's Kiovashad?
Well, Kiovashad's the capital city of Fracture Peaks, which is the area, the snowy mountainous
o Fracture
area
Peaks vai ser a área, a gente tem que atingir uma
Fracture
certa área,
that takes place in. And
que é
it's
essa que ele tá
a big
falando.
city, there's lots of stuff to do. It's not that far
É uma área
into
dentro
the
de uma
game.
área, né?
You'll play through the prologue, get
A zona é o
accustomed
Fracture
to
Peaks.
all of the mechanics and
Tu tem
everything,
que
start to
Fracture
get introduced to
Peaks
some
e
of
tu
the
tem que
characters, and
atingir
then
essa
you'll
zona para ganhar
arrive
um título.
at Kiovashad. So should be
Kiovashad.
fairly straightforward to get this one.
Yeah, so people will be able to earn the initial casualty title within Diablo 4 by doing that. And then another title that they'll earn once they hit level 20 on at least just one character itself
Até o
is
nível
an
20,
early Voyager
pelo menos em
title.
dos
So
personagens.
just get up to level 20 within the beta and you'll actually end up earning that title.
Essa
And
é
then
bem
last
mais
but not
tranquilo.
least,
Os dois
we actually have a really, I'm very excited about this one. It is a cosmetic reward that we are giving away to any player that does get that gets one character up to level 20, and it is a beta wolf pack. It's a cosmetic. It is quite possibly the most adorable thing in the whole entire world.
Caralho,
but,
que top,
it is
velho.
a
Só
little
atingiu
like pack
nível
that you
20.
can actually carry around within the game. In itself, it's animated, does move around. It's absolutely adorable.
Caralho, que foda, velho.
I mean, you can be slaying demons with the cutest little pup behind you, which is absolutely, I don't know, I'm super stoked about it. So,
it's super cute. We're showing it on the Barbarian here, of course, but it's wearable by any class, so you get to level 20, which takes some time. It's going to take some effort. but you can get this little pup who will follow you on your travels.
It's awesome. So yeah, this will carry over to the final game, and it is for all classes. So you just need to get one character to level 20, and you'll get one, the early Voyager title, and two, you'll get the Beta Wolf pack. So make sure to jump into Beta and actually get a character to 20, so you can have your own Wolf pack for launch itself. So there's a ton of that. I know we just gave out a ton of information about Beta here today. Again, this will all be on our Beta blog on diablo4.com immediately after the stream. So make sure to check out all the details and the times and all the requirements, for instance, to get those titles and the Beta Wolf pack itself. Oh, and one last thing, I completely forgot. During Beta, we actually have another live stream planned, and that is going to be on the 24th. It'll be the first day of Open Beta, but we're going to do a community play live stream, so it gives you guys an opportunity to actually play with the Blues, essentially. The employees here at Blizzard, some people from the dev team and the community team. And again, more details on that here coming really soon. So lots of information about Beta. Glad we got to showcase and talk about it all here today. We're going to jump into the armor systems discussion here with Mong now.
Armor system.
And I know that the community has been really asking, especially our hardcore fans of Diablo have been asking more details about systems and so forth. So we actually do want to jump into a little bit of a deep dive into the armor systems within Diablo 4. So Mong, take us through it.
Yeah, sure. I'm happy to talk about the armor system. So in Diablo 4, armor is the major way for player to mitigate incoming damage, especially physical damage. The major way for people to acquire armor is through the 5 armor slots. There are helm, chest, pants, boots, and gloves. And mostly for fantasy reason, we made armor, chest armor, and pants provide the most armor value, while boots and gloves provide the smallest amount of armor value.
O que mais vende arma de defesa vai ser no peitoral e na calça, e o menos vai ser na luvas e botas.
Depends on the item's power. And in Diablo, we use the item power value to represent the power of the item.
Yeah, and I don't think we've talked a lot about how item power works. Can you describe what it means for Diablo 4?
Yeah, so in Diablo 4, the item when they start dropping, it's based on the monster's power, and we need a value to represent how powerful this is. Like when you start getting more challenging content in the later world tier, you'll see you'll get more and more powerful item, and we need something to evaluate that and represent that power. So we use the item power to represent that power, and you can see that on the
item power vai depender do poder do monstro.
Like you can compare the two items. If one item has a higher item power, that means that item most likely going to be more powerful than the lower item power item.
But not always, right?
Not
there
always.
Might be specific affixes or things that are especially powerful for your build.
And back to the armor value. The armor value actually directly tied to this item power on those armor items. It's actually scaling linearly with those item power. The higher the item power, the more armor value that item provides.
And that's so that we know that we have some baseline for how much damage mitigation the player has.
Exactly. Because of this, when you loot higher power items, you naturally gain higher amount of armor. And therefore, it's guaranteed you always have a certain amount of damage mitigation against physical damage.
And so, so armor works differently in Diablo 4 than it did in Diablo 3, right?
Yeah.
In particular for elemental resistance.
Yeah, exactly. Like in Diablo 4, this is kind of like a long story. Like we because of the mechanic, we made sure the item, the player have a certain amount of damage mitigation against the physical damage. But then we found out some monster they are doing non-physical damage, and that causes trouble for the player. Like
Eles
for
falaram que
example,
todo mundo sabe que
there's a
a
dungeon boss
armadura
only
dava
deal
mitigação
shadow
para dano
damage.
físico e alguns
And
monstros dão
that
dano
causes
mágico.
some
Então,
serious balance problem for the
eles
encounter
estão
team
com um
because
problema de balanços.
for people who
Então,
have
falando
a
que eles
reasonable
tinham, né?
amount of a shadow resistance, that boss is not that hard. But some people, like when they have zero shadow resistance, the boss is almost unbeatable. Like they will always get one shot for this boss.
And players at low level, they might not have access to as much shadow resistance. They might not be as familiar with the game.
Exactly. So to solve this problem, what we did is we made some changes to the armor system. So armor not only absorb or mitigate incoming physical damage, we also make it absorb a certain amount of non-physical damage. So how it works is like this. For whatever percentage the armor absorbs physical damage, it also absorbs half of that amount of non-physical damage. For example, your armor absorbs 60% physical damage. So your armor will also absorb 30% of all
Então,
the
assim,
non-physical damage.
todo
So
dano
fire damage,
físico,
shadow
vamos supor,
damage,
dano
so on.
físico
Exactly.
absorve
And
60% do dano
this,
físico, essa mesma
people
armadura
now
agora vai
also
começar a
gain
absorver
some
30%,
amount,
sempre a
not a
metade
big amount, but some amount of
que eles usaram.
mitigation against non-physical damage. So that shadow boss
Mitigar não mágico,
is
dano
still
mágico, dano
challenging
não
for
físico.
people with zero shadow resistance, but it's in a much more controllable way.
And as players level up and they get access to higher world tiers, those world tiers actually have a penalty to your elemental resistances, right? So you're going to have to really make sure that you're keeping up on those resistances.
Yeah, exactly. When you get to higher world tier, we added more penalty for the player to make the higher world tier more challenging.
Isso é
So
parecido com o
you will
Tamo
have
Exile. Quanto mais tu vai subindo os tiers,
20%
tu vai tendo
penalty,
penalidades de resistência.
from World Tier 2 to World Tier 3 for the resistance. So you gain 20% less resistance.
Aí tu
And
diminui,
from
vamos
World
supor,
Tier 3 to World
20%
Tier 4,
menos
we
do
put
2 pro
even
do
higher
World Tier 1
penalty,
pro
it's
World
40%.
Tier
So
2.
World Tier 4 will be a lot more challenging than World Tier 3.
Aí o World
But
Tier
players have
4 vai ser
access, as
mais
they're getting up into
desafiante.
those higher levels, they're also getting access to more sources of elemental resistance, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Precisa de mais
we
itens com
added
elemental
the
resistance.
elemental resistance into various in-game system, like a skill tree, like item affixes, like a paragon system. You can acquire
Skill tree, Paragon.
those resistance through more and more ways. We actually expose more and more ways for you to be able to acquire armor and resistance at the end game.
So I think you brought some charts to show, like in more detail, how the mitigation works.
Sure. So we have talked about all the basics of how armor works. I want to dive a little bit deeper into actually how armor affects players' gameplay experience from level to level. The first thing I want to talk about is at each level we have a expected armor value for player. And based on that, we calculate what's the damage reduction player can get at each level. And we balance the monster damage above that. And from this chart, you can see at the beginning, based on the expected armor value, you can only get a little above 10% damage reduction. But it goes up pretty fast. And at the late game, you can get over 40% damage reduction from the armor value.
E no late game, no nível 97, 100, tu consegue mais de 40%.
At the beginning, you have only this light leather pants. It absorbs a very small amount of damage. But at a later level, you get this epic plate armor that absorbs a lot more. Because of this, like the damage reduction going up, player also that means that we need to make the monster deal more and more damage to mitigate this damage reduction for the player. Sure. And this is next. I'm going to talk about how actually each unit armor absorb damage from level to level.
Quanto tu precisa absorver de dano de level para level.
Yes. So you see, like it's opposite to how much damage reduction we expect for player to get from level to level. It's from lower to higher, but actually the damage reduction per armor is going down with level.
So per point of armor that I have, this is the chart that shows how much damage reduction that one single point of armor gives me at a given level. Okay.
And at the beginning, like you can see from this chart, like every 100
Então esse é
armor
o que cada
can
ponto
absorb
de
about
redução
5%
de elemento
of damage reduction.
dá em
But it
damage
goes
reduction,
down pretty fast early and
de
slow
acordo com
down
os
at the
níveis, né?
end.
Então
And at
a
the end,
eficiência
you
vai
can
sendo
see
diminuída de
like
acordo com os
each
níveis, né?
100
Quanto mais
armor can
pontos tu
only
vai botando.
absorb 1% damage reduction. We make it work this way because we want to make sure that designer have room to add more armor bonus at the end game. We try to avoid the situation like at the beginning you get to a pretty good amount of armor, then you totally forgot about this stuff. Like early on, we talk about we added like a resistance penalty to
tentando
for
evitar que
player
no
from
começo
what tier to
tenha
what tier.
muito,
That's actually
muito
for a
árvore,
very
que daí tu
similar purpose.
evita
Because of
pensar
this
nisso aí.
penalty, even though you have a
Nessas
pretty good
ideias.
resistance at the early game, you still need to look for more resistance at the late game.
And there are other ways that players can get damage reduction too, in addition to armor, right?
Yeah, exactly. Not only that they get this, that's kind of like happen at the late game when the challenge starts. They need to find a lot of other way, like they can look for, like for sorcerer class, they can look for energy shield. For druid and barbarian, they look for fortified power. And for
pouco mais árvore, com armor igual a 2000.
Rogue class, they look for more dodge chance. So not only they build on the armor and resistance to mitigate the damage, at the late game because the challenge becomes so tough, the world becomes the monster is so harsh, they need to find multiple ways to be able to survive in this harsh world. So far, I have been talking about like all of this is one player fighting the equal level monster. So next I'm gonna talk like what if you fight against a different level monster? If a monster higher than you or a monster lower than you. So this chart shows a player with 2,000 armor. What happened? How much damage reduction it actually absorbs for that 2,000 armor when they fight against different level monster. And you can see like the higher the monster level is, the less damage reduction this 2,000 armor actually absorb.
Maior o nível do
you can see
monstro,
like at the
menor
lower level they actually already like
reduction
reached
do
the damage reduction cap we set for armor, which is 85%. But when you like for 2,000 armor, usually the player can acquire this amount of armor around the level 30.
Right.
But if you see this level 30 character when they fight a level 100 monster, the 2,000 armor can actually only absorb 5% of the incoming damage, which is pretty
Com essa
minimal.
base de 2000
So
de
that
arma,
means
vamos supor monstro de
when
nível
a
100
player for them
vai
to
conseguir
challenge a
absorver só
higher level
5% do
monster,
dano.
not only the monster deal more damage,
Então,
they also penetrate more of your
eles vão só dar mais dano quanto mais penetram a armadura.
Yep. During level up campaign, like while you're doing campaign, or you do the open world content, it's not a big issue because most of the monsters scale with you. But when you do the end game content like a Nightmare Dungeon or Helltide, a lot of time you are forced to fight higher level monster, and in those cases, you will take like this built-in punishment to for the player. So you need to like find a way to mitigate that the more damage. Some people like they build up their offensive power. They try to finish the combat faster so that they can take less damage. While other people they find all the way like we said, going through Paragon
estilos, né?
system,
Tem gente
skill tree,
que
item
bota
affixes,
muito ofensivo
and
para daí acabar com a luta
legendary
logo.
power
Tem
of all
outros que
the
colocam
using all the
pontos no
ways to
Paragon para
mitigate
poder
that.
fazer uma luta mais equilibrada e segurar um pouco mais dano.
Punishment.
We also
Não colocam tanto
added
ofensivo, né?
damage mitigation to monsters
Vamos ver
in Diablo 4,
do...
right?
Yeah, exactly. That's what I want to talk about. So we used to not have a damage mitigation for monsters. So monster used to not have armor. So however amount the damage player deals, that's however amount of damage the monster gonna take. Mm-hmm. So it has an advantage. It's pretty straightforward. It's really easy to understand. But it also has a problem that is whenever we want to increase the monster's defense power, the only way we can do it is through increasing the monster's hit point. Mm-hmm. Like we say, from level 31, a monster from level 31 to 32, we want to increase their defense power, the time to kill by 10%. That means level 32 monster gonna have 10% more hit point or life than the level 31 monster. If you do this from level 1 to level 100, and at the end it ends up with a super big number, like billions or even trillions. And for player to be able to kill this monster in a reasonable time, the player needs to deal like billions of damage. And in Diablo 4, we show this damage number as a floating combat text. We cannot hide it. And so because the number is so big, so long, it covers a big chunk of the screen.
Yeah, it's hard to understand too. Like
yeah.
Reading, combat in Diablo is really fast. You want to be able to quickly understand how much damage you're doing.
Yeah.
And we're trying to keep the numbers down.
Yeah. We try to solve this problem. Also, we get a lot of feedback from
do Diablo 3
community.
pro Diablo 4, né? Que
They also don't like
bilhões.
it.
Yeah. I know the community has talked a lot about like big damage numbers and so forth, and like Diablo 3, for instance, and so forth.
Tá falando aí do Diablo 3, dos números grandes.
So therefore, we decided to add this damage mitigation, or we call it monster armor. So at each level, monster actually absorb a certain percentage of players' damage.
Não era uma ideia de aumentar, vamos
supor,
de
nível.
Eles deram um exemplo de 31, 32, aumentar 10% de vida de HP.
Then in our playtest, it creates a different problem because this damage reduction going up pretty fast. Player actually deal less damage when they level up. That's not what we want.
I don't want to get weaker when I level up.
Yeah, exactly. So we have to take the damage reduction number for the monster, so that it always scales slower compared to the damage increase. Damage increase for the player.
Tá, o damage reduction do monstro vai escalar mais devagar do que, obviamente, do dano que o level up vai te dar.
From level to level, but now we have a pretty good way to control how fast it increases. And therefore, we get the damage number at a very late game into a pretty reasonable space.
That's good.
That's
nice.
Awesome.
E eles conseguiram controlar todos os números.
Well, I know we talked a lot about
ideias.
the armor systems here, and even just like the fact that like monsters themselves will have armor, which is new for Diablo in itself.
Assim que o Diablo, os monstros vão ter arma, né? Então isso é novo.
Because we have Art here, who's our lead world designer. Art, I know, has been focusing on strongholds and has a lot to talk about. Strongholds themselves is a brand new feature within Diablo 4.
Yeah, absolutely. So conceptually, strongholds, they are places of importance to the world and the people of Sanctuary that have been overrun by evil. Pretty simple, right? So this way this ends up working in practice is as you're exploring and navigating the huge world of Diablo 4 in Sanctuary, there will be multiple strongholds in each of our 5 zones for you to discover. And these are completely unique. So each stronghold is a unique location. They have different stories. They have different gameplay objectives, bosses. Even some of the rewards are unique to each specific stronghold. And much like our campaign, these are private experiences. They're just for you or you and your party if you choose to bring some friends. So once you've completed the stronghold, then the space becomes something that we refer to as a public space, where you then might encounter and interact with other players if you want.
That's cool. So, like, what type of spaces can strongholds themselves end up kind of like changing to after you end up encountering them and maybe like conquering them or going through them yourself?
Yeah, so that's like actually one of the things that I'm most excited to talk about the system is that when you conquer a stronghold, there's a lasting impact on the world, and we actually unlock a bunch of additional content for you to explore and engage with after the fact. But I think I want to talk about that a little bit later.
Vai ganhar mais content.
I think we have footage as well for the strongholds that we can actually like kind of throw up here, and maybe we can explain like what players are kind of experiencing or like what they would experience when they're going through strongholds.
Yeah, I did. I found it.
Nice.
I found a clip on the floor.
Então, quando tu libera, você enfrenta stronghold, libera, tu vai liberar mais conteúdos e vai poder ser usado público. Primeiro tu tem que liberar ele privado no teu jogo.
In the jagged shores of northern Scotland, there's this great lighthouse called Hope's Light, and its flame has been extinguished. The port town of Merwin nearby is particularly affected. It's the only port town in all of Scotland. They consider this a sacred place, and obviously the sailors of these perilous waters, they kind of rely on the lighthouse to navigate. So your kind of high-level objective is just to find a path through to the lighthouse and figure out what happened. As the player, when you arrive there, you notice the drowned have risen. The drowned are this brand new monster family in Diablo 4. They're these super mysterious creatures that kind of shamble up onto the shores from the depths of the sea. And they drag these like bells and mysterious idols with them. Nobody really knows like who they are or what they want. One of the other things that we're super excited to kind of do with Strongholds is to try and showcase these monster families, kind of give you a glimpse into what they're about.
Yeah, because I know like back during BlizzCon, we actually, BlizzCon 2019, when we revealed Diablo 4, we actually did showcase the Drown for the first time. And then since then, I know we had a quarterly update blog that talked a little bit about monster families, where we even talked about like familiars, for instance, and so forth that were up there. But like, yeah, this is kind of like the first like updated look I think people are seeing of the Drowned here in a stronghold, which is really cool to see.
Oh, legendary.
Yeah.
I never knew what it was because I was playing with the UI off. So. Actually, that might be going back to kind of strongholds at the system level, and kind of like why you, the player, might care. Strongholds, they provide you with a lot of really awesome rewards. Obviously, you slay a bunch of monsters, you kill a boss, you're going to get a bunch of XP and loot. Beyond that, strongholds also reward you with a high amount of renown. Renown is another new system in Diablo 4. And just to quickly summarize that, renown, it rewards you with engaging with various open world activities. You gain renown in each of the 5 regions of the game. And when you hit certain milestones of renown, you'll get rewards. You'll get really cool stuff like additional potion charges, skill points, even Paragon points at the later
O Renown, que eles estão falando agora, é tipo uma mecânica que tu vai familiarizado com a cidade, tu fazendo missões pra cidade.
Beyond all this strictly character progression stuff, I mentioned before, conquering a stronghold has a lasting impact on the world and unlocks a bunch of additional content. When you've completed a stronghold, and in some cases you've kind of cleansed the evil as much as it can be in a world like Sanctuary, people feel safe enough to come back, and so some strongholds will actually become towns after they'll have vendors, waypoints.
Stronghold, depois tu limpa o mal, né, que tá nele, ele vira público, vem vendors, vem monte de coisa, NPC, né?
Many strongholds actually unlock dungeons, so if you are hunting for aspects in the Codex of Power, or you're engaging with the Whispers of the Dead or Nightmare Dungeons endgame systems, you're probably really going to want to discover all these.
That's awesome. So yeah, like just like the
Se você quiser fazer o conteúdo de endgame, tipo o Codex Power e todos os outros, né?
Obviously going through dungeons and
provavelmente tu vai ter que finalizar isso aí, né?
So yeah, actually completing strongholds will unlock new dungeons that will let you get more codex or more powers within your codex itself. So it kind of like opens up more and more, especially with strongholds itself. That's awesome, and the fact that it's a lasting impact on the world is pretty crazy. can you see strongholds like on the map, like as you're kind of like traversing through Sanctuary?
Yeah, absolutely. Just so like any other area of the game, you know, it starts as kind of undiscovered space, and then once you've discovered it, they show up on the map. They have some iconography to let you know that hey, there's a cool piece of
Então, os
content for you to
strongholds vão
review
ser
here.
vistos pelo mapa, depois que você
Nice.
descobrir, né, vai conseguir
Players
ser
themselves will
visto
see tons of these
tranquilamente pelo
throughout,
mapa.
all of, like as Sanctuary that they can actually either maybe like do a little bit later or come back to and so forth from that side.
Yeah, absolutely. There, like I said, there's multiple strongholds in every region, and one of the strongholds actually have a minimum level, so you might actually you know, discover one that you're just under leveled for. There's nothing stopping you from trying to take it on, but you're probably gonna die.
Unless you're playing hardcore, and then you
Well,
probably
then you
don't.
then you make a new character because you died.
Yeah, exactly. That's when you question it a little bit. Yeah. So, and that's another question we get a lot is like, is hardcore going to be in Diablo 4? And yes, it will be. So
Vai
that's
ter
when you would
hardcore no
question
Diablo
the idea
4.
of wanting to try to conquer a
Confirmado.
stronghold at a lower level. So, but yeah, with the and a lot again, this is just a brand new feature for Diablo 4 in itself. So it actually allows you to essentially just continue to add additional content to the game and change the world completely, because the fact that you can actually get new waypoints or you know, a whole new town that you can actually interact with new, you know, vendors and so forth from that side is also just completely like game changing from that side.
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of the new content that you unlock, it is also kind of like part of the renown system. So you complete a stronghold and you get you know, side quests and dungeons, and all these things also feed into the renown system. So yeah, there's a lot of cool stuff. Kind of completing a stronghold is kind of like only half of the feature, right?
Yeah.
The other half is all the additional stuff that gets unlocked afterwards.
That's very cool. Yeah, Strongholds is sounding awesome. I know, like myself, I mean, I played the game. People will be able to play it really soon, but the perks of working at
You heard
Blizzard.
it here first. We play the game.
We play the game. The perks of working at Blizzard. But yeah, it's it most definitely is a cool feature, and I you know, had Strongholds completely change like the whole entire map, and just having like even a waypoint closer to wherever you need to go for a dungeon is also really great to have. So. Of course, an art provided here, this footage here of a barbarian kind of going through. And I know this barbarian has got like some legendary
Eles
type
estão
of
falando que
gear
é um
and,
bárbaro
like,
que está
some unique
fazendo
skills
toda a
and so
gameplay e
forth that
tal.
are like kind of modified based off the gear. So trying to
Eles
show
estão
off a little
liberando
bit of,
Stronghold.
a higher level barbarian for people because the barb's just a ton of fun to play.
Yeah, super fun.
Cool. Well, I know that we kind of went over a little bit about armor systems and the strongholds themselves. We do a lot of the feedback from the last stream is like, you know, people were hoping that we spend a little bit more time on Q&A, and we most definitely want to spend some time on Q&A. So we will kind of like jump into some questions. We're also going to take some questions from
Para as
Twitch
questões.
chat as well, because I know we have chat available, and we've been pulling some throughout the actual broadcasts themselves. So I know first question that we have, and this is kind of a popular question that we've gotten a lot from a lot of people, because they want to hear more about some of the progression systems and the end game systems that are coming to Diablo 4. And
E
I
a
will say
pergunta
that
é
I can
quando nós
guarantee you that
vamos
we actually
aprender
have
mais sobre
a
Diablo
lot
4,
of
progressão de Diablo
progression
4
in-game
e a
items
mecânica
that
dos
we do want to
sistemas
talk about,
do
and it's going to come
J&J Game.
shortly after beta. We actually even have a live stream that we are going to be planning after beta that we're going to be dedicating on those specific topics. Because there's a ton to kind of go over that. So you guys are going to see a ton of videos and a live stream and so forth dedicated to all those specific pieces, because it is probably one of the big things that everyone's asking about like, hey, how can I progress my character, or how can I continue playing, especially through the end game system. So expect that right after beta. It'll be shortly after beta. We're excited to share all that stuff with everyone.
Então,
from
logo
that
após
end.
o beta, vão conseguir
Another question that we
liberar mais,
get is,
mais
is
respostas, né,
there a
sobre essa questão.
Let me see. Do we have another question on the lower third? There we go. Is there a limit on the
Se vai
number of
ter
people you can
limite
see
no número
in
de
the
pessoas
open world?
que dá pra ver no,
Oh,
no
sure,
Open
yeah.
World.
So there is a limit of the
Vai
number
ter
of people
limite.
you see at any one time. And it adjusts dynamically depending on
Se
the kind
ajusta
of content you're doing,
dinamicamente.
right? We want the exploration of the open world to feel
Tem que ser
like
exploração.
Diablo,
Só um
to
momentinho.
feel like a desolate place. If you're running around in this harsh world and you're being tasked to do things, or you're trying to defeat evil, but there are 20 other people defeating the same evil at the same time, you really lose that sense of a Diablo experience, right? And so we've been very careful, and we've actually been tuning it throughout the development process, tuning exactly how many people you'll see when you're out exploring an open world area. Art was just talking about strongholds, and strongholds and dungeons are completely private experiences, so you'll only see people that you've invited to your party, or if you don't invite anyone, you won't see anyone, right? And then, of course, when you're in public spaces, or when a stronghold becomes a public space, you'll start to see other people there. But you won't see a whole lot of people in those areas because of that sense of exploration and experience there. Now, when you're doing content that benefits from having lots of people at once, like you're doing at Java, you're doing World Boss,
itself,
in the beta, or you're doing an event that the world has events that show up dynamically. If you're doing events like that, you might see more players congregate in that area. And then when you go to a town, that's where you're going to see the most other people. You're going to get to see everyone else's cool
Ele não
gear.
fala um número exato, mas ele está falando que dinamicamente vai acontecer. Quando você faz Open Boss, vai ver mais pessoas.
Our town hubs, if you think about Kyovashad and Open Beta, you'll see lots. It'll feel like a city. There are people running around, and then when you head out of the city into, the frozen wasteland, it'll feel like a frozen wasteland.
Nice, awesome, very cool. I know we have a few other questions here that I'm just gonna kind of spitfire out as I kind of see them. One quick question, I know people are asking if you can stream the beta. You most definitely can stream the beta. Even early access, there's no restrictions on that. So yes, you can stream the beta. You can watch your favorite streamer as they play through beta. That will all be available specifically from that. And there is a question regarding ultra-wide support regarding Diablo 4. I know we had talked about, well, at least Joe and I have talked about this specifically, that it does, the game does support ultra-wide for the game itself.
O jogo suporta ultra-wide?
The super ultra-wide or something. There might be like...
Yeah, we support up to 3:1.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember the resolutions. I'm like,
so if you have an ultra-wide monitor, you're gonna get to see more of the world.
Vai dar para ver mais do mundo se tem ultra-wide.
Mega super ultra-wides, you will see black bars on the side.
Awesome.
Se estiver muito grande, tu vai ver black bars.
Is there, can you
Tem
play
suporte de controle no PC?
on PC and use a controller?
Absolutely.
Vai
That's
dar.
the main way
Dá
that
pra
I
usar.
do it.
And fun fact is, it's a really great way.
I also know how to use a mouse.
Yeah. It's a great way of grabbing shots too.
E ele também sabe como usar um mouse.
Gives you a stable hand for sure. Let's see. Is Open Beta for anyone who may have purchased the base edition? Yes. If you pre-order at all, you get actually access to the early access beta, so you can actually even play the weekend beforehand. And then, of course, Open Beta is just open for everyone from that end. Is Diablo 4 going to have seasons like 3? So Diablo 4 will have seasons. We're actually going to have more information on the first season of Diablo 4 as we get closer to launch, specifically from
Então,
that end.
perto do lançamento vai ter informações sobre a temporada 1.
talked about in the last stream that the first season of Diablo 4 will end up starting a little after launch. So
A primeira temporada vai começar pouco depois do lançamento,
kind
né?
of a pre-season or so from that end.
That's right. Yeah. We're going to talk a lot more about sort of the scope and breadth of seasons, how expansive they are, as we get a little bit closer here, and we'll be able to talk more specifically about what kinds of stuff are coming to season 1 and our plans to really expand that feature. But the key thing to know is that our ambition here is to make the seasons substantially meatier than we've seen in the past. Like, we really want this to be a live game that's changing with every season, introducing new
maiores
gameplay
e mais
elements.
intrigantes.
And it's something we're putting a lot of work and
Estão botando bastante trabalho.
effort into developing.
E
There was a question about, because I know we had talked about this when Diablo 4 was originally announced, about runes and rune words and so forth. Question about runes and rune words, are they going to be available in Diablo 4 like right at launch, or is there any plans in the future and so forth in that sense?
Yeah,
runas
so,
e negócios vai ter mais informações
This is one of the really
mais pra
interesting
frente.
things about developing developing the game and showing it off. Like we've tried as we develop the game to talk about everything that we're doing as much as possible. And one effect of that is that because the game is in development, we're experimenting with things, and we're, you know, if you look at some of the shots of the skill tree that we've showed, it's changed dramatically. You know, as we've looked at player feedback from showing it off. That's the great thing about showing stuff off, is we can get
Vocês
feedback from
mostram
players
já
and
que
make
lá no começo dos
adjustments, right?
primeiros vídeos até agora mudou bastante
And it
coisa
also
porque
means
eles
that
dão bola pro
sometimes
feedback
we'll announce features like rune
das pessoas,
words,
né?
and
Dos players.
we'll realize that, like, you know what, this needs more time
Mm-hmm.
to get right. And we know, especially with something like rune words, that it's something that players, because it's an existing concept in Diablo, right? Like if we made up a name and said, oh, here's this new system and it's super cool and here's what it does, great, no problem. But if we say, oh, here's this new system and it's rune words, and players say, well, I remember what rune words were and this is not rune words, then, you know, we need to make sure that we're fulfilling the player expectations there. And so that's something that, you know,
Eles
we
vão
plan
fazer
to
tudo dentro das
to,
expectativas,
return to in the
atingir
future.
as expectativas
Awesome.
dos jogadores, né?
In the game, are there like achievements and so forth for players to potentially like earn
Vai ter
or
algum
whatnot?
achievement,
I guess it's
algumas
almost kind of
coisas.
like we kind of most definitely have
Like
some
back then.
sort of way of being able to track like specific goals or whatnot within the game.
Oh yeah, of course. So
Principais objetivos,
yeah,
etc.
there are achievements. There are also a number of challenges that
Tem
you can do. There are
desafios
class-based challenges. There are challenges that are associated with particular
baseados por
content.
classe, no
all kinds of cool stuff.
conteúdo.
Yeah,
Tudo
and
isso.
I
Que
mean,
nem Diablo
and some
3,
of those
né?
challenges unlock even like things like what you guys might, what we talked about even during beta, where just getting to like Kiova shot, for instance, ended up unlocking like a title or whatnot. So
A title, and when you get to level 20, you get that beta wolf pack
exactly.
with the wolf pup.
Chega no
Exactly.
nível 20, pegar o
I know there's a
Wolfpack.
question about like WASD movement. I say it WASD. Some people call it WASD keyboard movement on
Não,
Diablo 4.
WASD.
People were asking if potentially there was that within D4.
Yeah, so we've tried to extend the. So we don't support WASD movement at launch. Let me be clear on that.
Tá, no
But what we have
lançamento não
tried
vai
to do
ter
is
suporte
really
para
expand
WASD.
the way that you can customize the
poder
way you're playing,
mover
both
teu
for
personagem com as
accessibility
setinhas,
reasons and
com
also
os-
because people
a
just
tecla do
have
WASD.
lots of different ways they want to play Diablo.
Vai ser o
And
clique,
we
que nem
recognize
o
that
Diablo
some folks
3.
want to play WASD movement, and it's something we'll continue to look into. But if you look at Diablo 4 compared to previous titles, you can do a lot more customization of like what's on your left mouse button. You can. Our engineers have put a lot of work into like
Vai ter mais
even
customização
things
do que o
like, do I
Diablo
wanna-
13 do
like
que
if
o
I bind
2
something
ou
else to my left mouse button, am I going to like click to move forward, or can I move those bindings around? So you have a lot of control over which skills are in which slots and how you want to interact with the
Bastante
game,
controle
and
de
of course
slot.
with the controller as well.
And I know like this kind of like segues into another question I just saw, I'm going to call out names. RRMXX in Twitch ended up calling out. That's why I'm not calling out names. I'm going to butcher everyone's name. But they were asking about like accessibility options within Diablo 4, and I know we have a team that is like our UI and UX teams have been like super
accessibility.
dedicated on making sure that we can hit as many audiences as possible
Yes.
with D4. And we actually are planning on going into like a detailed like summary of all the accessibility options that are going to be incorporated into D4, so that, you know, obviously more players can enjoy and take part in the world of Sanctuary. So it's actually really cool. So we'll be going into more details on that. Party size. A lot of people are asking like how big are parties within D4 specifically?
4 players.
4 players. There you go. Easy going. Let's see.
Mais jogadores, né?
Our perk. I know we haven't gone into like details about like skins and store. We will before launch, but so we'll get back to like purchase skins and being available on all characters and stuff. We'll have a whole detailed list on that. And then this is a fun question for you guys. What are your favorite classes, and would you guys plan on maining during launch? Each of you, I guess.
A classe favorita de cada
All right, I'll start. I usually say rogue, and that's mostly because
Diretor é o Rogue,
I think we did such an incredible job.
que é o
fulfilling the
classe que eu acho que eu
fantasy
vou
of
começar a
having,
jogar
like, a
também, que vai
hybrid
ser o
melee
Rogue.
ranged class. or I can take like skills that are ranged
Muito
skills
provavelmente vai
and,
ser que eu vou começar.
skills that are melee skills and really use them seamlessly between. That's actually something that sort of we got when we developed the barbarian. We knew we wanted to have this weapon master that's wielding just lots and lots of different weapons, and so we developed the arsenal system for the barbarian. And a consequence of that development is that it solved this sort of problem we had with, like, well, do I have if I'm a ranged class like a rogue that also, part of the fantasy is being a ranged class or a melee class or some mix, and do I have to like go into my inventory and switch to my melee weapons, and how does that work, right? So we were able to use some of that same tech to make it really a fun experience.
Nice.
What about you, Mom?
I'll mostly focus on playing. My first character will be a sorceress because
Vai ser
I have that
sorcerer,
fun
né, cara?
memory, like farming Mephisto with
All those D2 memories.
yeah, with my lightning static sorcerers, and also I play a lot of sorcerers also in Diablo 3. So I'm always like
Ele jogou muito de
get like
Wizard no Diablo
emotional
3,
with
né?
the fire code
falou sorcerer, né?
and the lightning kind of a fantasy of sorcerers.
For me, I think it's a tough choice between Rogue, like Joe said. I really like the kind of like positional requirements and the fast movement pace of playing that character, or Druid. I really like the kind
Ele
of
tá
hybrid
entre o Rogue e o
element.
Druid.
I've been having a lot of fun with
Druid é da hora,
like
né?
kind of hybrid werewolf
Druida.
caster builds, experimenting with them lately. So I think that might be what I'll go with
Acho
on
que no
release.
começo,
I think for me,
no Early Access, eu vou escolher o
Druid
Rogue
for
e
sure.
no...
I've
vou
been
no
playing,
Druid.
Druid
Do
was
cara
my-
do que tá falando é o
when the
Druid.
expansion for D2 came out, I just dropped every character and just only focused on Druid. I've always loved playing that type of class fantasy in any type of game, even like WoW, for instance. I always played Druid. But I will say Rogue is really good. Rogue has like if you want flashy, Rogue is most definitely super flashy. Like the idea that you can even have skills where you can like literally throw your
personagem
daggers into
rápido,
someone
Rogue, né?
and then jump to them is like the most flashy thing in the world. So I'm going to end with one last question because I know we've been getting this a
Última
lot,
pergunta.
and it's regarding trading within Diablo 4.
E o
And I
trading,
think there's
sobre
like nuances and so
de
forth, but
itens.
people are asking, is there trading in D4? Because obviously, like D3, it was
Se vai ter o trade no
almost
Diablo
non-existent.
4.
So yeah, it's people are curious to know how that works in D4.
Yeah, we get this question a lot, and we're continuing to, trading in D4 is less restrictive than it is in D3, but it's by no means wide open trading. And we know that there are lots of players who enjoy the trading, like enjoy the game for the trading experience, and that those players would like to have, as few restrictions on trading as possible. And so we want to support that to the extent that we can, but we also want to protect the core game loop of killing monsters to get loot, right? And so there are some restrictions on trading to further
No trade.
encourage the situation where the best
Pra
way to
encorajar
get the most
que o
powerful
melhor
loot is
jeito
to kill monsters.
de
That's
pegar
sort of the
item é
overriding
matando os
directive there.
monstros, né? Não fazendo trade.
But when you think about all the stuff that we're doing that we plan to do with seasons and the game being a live service, we could certainly see opportunities for different trading rule sets in the future.
Cool. Awesome. And I'm going to answer this really quickly because everyone's like spamming it. Yes, there are treasure goblins in Diablo.
Oh.
Sim, vai ter treasure
Are there
goblins.
goblins? Are there goblins? Yes,
There
there
are.
are treasure
Vai
goblins.
ter
in
treasure
Diablo 4. So,
goblins.
thank you guys for joining us today on the Diablo 4 live stream.
encerrando.
I will note this is actually the